Good morning. We are going to be getting into our notes on listening and perception. This is day one of these notes. I think it's going to take us into next week as well, but listening and perception is one of the most important parts of communication. Some would even argue that it is one half of communication because you can send messages all day, you can encode, you can do whatever, but if you cannot properly decode something, if you cannot properly listen, and you cannot perceive the world around you, then it's going to be kind of difficult to communicate. So, with that being said, remember that all of these slides have embedded audio from Dr. Rodriguez with some great information. But I'm going to do my best to kind of go through the notes and try to explain what each of these slides mean and try to maybe water down or simplify some of the terms that they discuss. So let's get started. So why is listening important? Well, Mr. Smith, if we don't listen, then we can't hear people. It's actually, if we can't hear people, then we won't listen. But I'll get to that in a second. So it's so important because, according to Epictetus, a Greek philosopher, we have two ears and one mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. We also have one nose, which is why everything stinks. I'm just kidding. But of the times we spend communicating, 45% of that is devoted to listening. So about half of all of our communication is devoted to listening. Usually a person only remembers about 50% of what is said to them. So if we spend half of our time listening and we only remember half of that, that means that a quarter of the things that we already know are the only things that we remember. After 8 hours, so after it leaves the short-term memory and it does not get put into the working memory, which you can talk about more in psychology, like with like short-term, long-term, and working memory. But after 8 hours, they usually forget about another 1/2 to 1/3 of what was originally grasped. So if you're doing math, and I don't because I'm not a math teacher, this means that you typically forget 75% of the things that you hear. That's why people will be like, oh, well, I don't remember the lessons that like I learned in like so-and-so's class, but I do remember that one day because like it was really fun and we did that thing. I think Maya Angelou said the quote: "People will not remember what you said to them; they won't remember what you did to them, but they will remember how you made them feel." So I think that that's kind of one really important thing, especially when it comes to perception. We cannot remember everything that is said to us, otherwise we would go insane. So some more listening facts. The average person speaks at a rate of about 150 words per minute. I cannot time myself, but I do think that I speak faster than the average person. Definitely faster than the average teacher. But I do think that some teachers talk slow and it frustrates some students. Some teachers talk fast and it frustrates some students. Not every teacher is going to be great for every single student. There are students here that probably don't like my rambling because it can take some time from what they're just trying to do. Listeners, however, can understand messages presented at a rate of 380 words per minute. That means that theoretically, you could put everything that you listen to on twice the speed and you would still understand it. So you could listen to podcasts at twice the speed, you could watch videos at twice the speed, and you would still be able to listen and understand every single thing that you're seeing. However, often that lag time causes listeners to let their minds wander. So if there's a teacher talking and you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I'm listening. You start nodding your head and you're like, I'm kind of hungry. What am I getting for lunch today? I go off campus. I get Wendy's. I could get Chick-fil-A. I could get Bush's, but I had Bush's yesterday. It's Tender Tuesday. No, it's not. It's Wednesday. I'm going to get Cane's. Do they have honey mustard? They do have honey mustard. Why isn't it on the menu? And by the time you do that, the lesson's over and the Zoom has ended and you don't really know what just happened. So the lag time can cause your mind to wander. So we have to kind of train our brain into focusing our attention. Now, again, this isn't me trying to like walk over like people that are diagnosed with ADHD or people that have like actual problems focusing. But when it comes to figuring out what you want to pay attention to, you do have a little bit of control as far as that goes. And that starts with perception. So this is not just a unit on listening because that would just be us hearing things, right? But we have to perceive things before we do anything. So perception is the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting sensory information into coherent or lucid depiction of the world around us. Mr. Smith, too many words. What does it mean? I'll tell you what it means. So first I'm going to box this up. So selecting, okay, so we're picking something, organizing it, we're putting it in our brain in a way that we'll remember it, and interpreting, figuring out what it means. Information, or sensory information, so things from our five senses, we either smell it, we touch it, we see it, we hear it, or we taste it. And we are converting it into a coherent or lucid depiction of the world around us. If something is lucid, that means that it is smooth, it's clear, it's understandable. So basically, all that we're doing from the time that we're born until the time that we die is we try to figure out the world around us. We do that through our five senses. That's how we build our perception. Now, because of this, where is my small arrow? Because of our perception, this impacts our view of people, events, and behaviors. So, you probably have certain opinions on politics, certain opinions on society, certain opinions on things. And all of those things are based off of your background and your past experiences. What you grew up paying attention to, what you grew up hearing, what you grew up believing, what you grew up learning. So all of those things, your past experiences and your background have directly, can I draw a curvy arrow? I don't think it'll let me, but I can draw this. So all of these things go back to our perception. Perfect. Because we have so much to listen to, we tend to use our perception to decide what to listen to. So there's so much stuff happening in the world all the time. And I'm not just talking about listening to things. I'm talking about like seeing things, experiencing things, all that good stuff. So there's a lot. So we have limited capacity processors. These are systems of information retention with fixed and limited ability to store, process, and understand information. Mr. Smith, too many words again. Okay. The limited capacity processors are basically things that are already in our brain that say, hey, brain, we can't focus on everything all at the same time at once. Even if you're in a classroom of 30 people, you can't pay attention to what every single one of them is doing at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in place things that will help you decide what's important and what isn't. And you can either train yourself to do better at that or untrain so that you can figure out ways to pay better attention. So we can fix our limited capacity processors and we can try to better understand the world around us. Let's move on. Selection. This is the first process in the perception process, or the first step in the perception process. We have selective exposure. This refers to the choice to subject oneself to certain stimuli. We tend to select stimuli that is comfortable and familiar to us, and culture plays a large role in this process. So when we decide that we like tacos, then we decide that we're going to continue to eat tacos because we have built in our perception that tacos are delicious. Same with any kind of your favorite food, your favorite popsicle, your favorite ice cream, your favorite music. Once you're like, oh, I think I like K-pop, I'm going to listen to more K-pop because you know that when you listen to it, you're going to feel good because of what you've already experienced. So we select stimuli that are already good to us. Now, a lot of this stuff, like I said at the beginning of the year, you're like, Mr. Smith, duh, of course. But at the same time, it's good to understand we can't pay attention to everything. So why do we pay attention to the things that we pay attention to? The reason why is because of this. The factors of selective perception. We have three, how many? Three different great things that kind of play into that. First, we have proximity. So proximity is nearness, or I guess how close something is. Limited distance or nearness between two or more things or people. You're sitting in the classroom. Someone right next to you sneezes. What do you say? Bless you. Someone across the room sneezes. What do you say? Bless you, if you heard them. But let's say that Mr. Smith sneezes. Mr. Smith either sneezes so loud that everyone in the room has to listen to him, or I sneeze so quiet that I don't even know that I sneezed. And so in the case of that, if I sneeze so quiet and I don't understand, and someone from all the way across the room is like, bless you, Mr. Smith, that means that they were trying to fix their proximity. Even though they weren't close to me, they wanted to actually say, hey, I was paying attention to that, so bless you. Or you could not say bless you to someone that sneezed and be a sociopath. I'm kidding. The next thing is utility. So we know that superheroes have utility belts. So what does that mean? Utility means usefulness. Batman has a belt of things that are useful to him. So this is a measure of satisfaction, usefulness, or purpose derived from an object or experience. If you know that something is going to be useful to you, you are going to pay attention to it. You will pay attention to your phone because your phone is where everything is, right? You're going to pay attention to your parents because your parents keep you alive. They keep you in the house and they keep you living, right? You're going to pay attention to your teachers sometimes because you might think the information is useful. But if you're one of those, I don't really know why we learn math in school. We do because of critical thinking, but that's beside the point. But those people that are like, well, this class isn't useful to me. It's boring. I don't really care about it. So it loses its utility. So you'll pay less attention, if that makes sense. Then the last one is reinforcing, to provide or create a stimulus that strengthens or encourages the likelihood of repetition or action of the emotional response. So this means that we will perceive something, or we will choose to perceive something if we like how perceiving that made us feel. Listening to music, eating good food, talking to someone, petting dogs. Again, petting dogs creates a stimulus. Where are my dogs? There we go. Petting my dogs right now. Okay. So that is something that I know is going to give a good emotional response for my dog and an emotional response for me. So I'm going to continue to do that. So to recap the notes, we cannot pay attention to everything. The reason why we can't pay attention to everything is because of our limited perception processors, and we are more likely to pay attention to things that are close to us, useful, and will also reinforce a better emotional response. So that is part one of our notes, and we will continue this tomorrow.